You know, most of us walk around thinking we're the ones in charge. We believe we're rational, conscious, and firmly in the cockpit of our own minds. But what if I told you that most of the thoughts and impulses that guide your day-to-day life, they come from a place you can't even see? Well, today we're going to meet that stranger in your mirror and uncover the hidden systems that are really steering the wheel.
So let's just start with this one central question. Are you the pilot or just a passenger? We all love to think we're the pilot, right? We're charting the course, we're in total control. But what the science is showing us is a picture that's, well, a lot more interesting. It suggests that more often than not, we're really just passengers along for the ride.
And here's the fundamental conflict we're dealing with. On one hand, you've got our belief, the pilot. We see ourselves as rational, conscious, and in control. But then there's the reality, the passenger, guided by impulses, completely unaware of where they come from, and influenced by all sorts of unknown factors. Our whole goal today is to get to know that passenger, the stranger inside all of us.
Okay, so to really understand this mental drama, we have to meet the two main characters running the show inside our heads. In psychology, they're known as System 1 and System 2.
Think of System 1 as your gut reaction. It's fast, it's automatic, it's totally intuitive. It's the thing that lets you instantly know someone's angry just from the sound of their voice. System 2, on the other hand, that's the slow, deliberate thinker. That's the part of your brain that you have to consciously fire up to solve a problem like, say, 17 times 24. But here's the twist. System 2 is, well, it's lazy. It takes effort to use. So that fast-acting, conclusion-jumping System 1 is in charge almost all of the time.
And this quote just nails the relationship perfectly. We identify with our conscious, rational System 2. We think it's the hero of our story. But most of the time, that self is just a supporting character, making up excuses and justifications for decisions that the impulsive, automatic System 1 already made.
All right, so we've got this fast, intuitive, and, let's be honest, kind of lazy boss called System 1 running the whole show. Now, here's the really wild part. It is incredibly easy for the world around us to nudge and influence it, often without us having a clue that it's even happening.
This whole phenomenon has a name. It's called the ideomotor effect. Now that sounds fancy, but it boils down to a pretty simple and startling idea. Just thinking about something can make your body do it. An idea gets planted in your mind and it can trigger a physical action before your conscious self even has a chance to weigh in.
There's a classic study called the Florida effect that shows this perfectly. Researchers had a group of students unscramble sentences that just happened to contain words associated with old age, words like wrinkle or gray or bald. Now, they weren't told to think about being old, but get this, after the test, when they walked down the hallway, they physically walked more slowly. The idea of old age primed physical behavior, completely outside of their awareness.
And this is not just some weird lab trick. In one real-world office, researchers put up an honesty box for people to pay for coffee. For a couple of weeks, they had a poster of flowers hanging above it. Then, they swapped it out for a poster with a pair of staring eyes. And the result? People's contributions nearly tripled. The simple, unconscious feeling of being watched was enough to completely change their behavior.
Okay, so we've seen how cues out there in the world can trick us. But our brain also has its own little glitches, internal bugs that lead us astray. Let's dig into two of the most powerful ones. Our brain's love for anything that feels familiar, and its weird habit of trusting random numbers. So first up is something called cognitive ease. You know that feeling when you read something and it just clicks? It's simple, it's clear, maybe you've heard it before. It just feels good to your brain. It goes down smoothly. The problem is, your quick-thinking System 1 mistakes that easy, comfortable feeling for a sign that the information is actually true.
I mean, take a look at this example. The statement is totally false. Hitler was born in 1889. But if you repeat this lie over and over, or you just present it in a nice, clear, bold font, it starts to feel true. Your brain's preference for what's easy to process can literally override facts. For System 1, familiarity is almost impossible to tell apart from the truth. Now, for the next glitch, this one is called the anchoring effect, and it is absolutely wild. It's our brain's tendency to just latch on to the very first piece of information it sees, we call that the anchor, and then let that number completely warp all our other judgments, even when the number is totally 100% random.
So in the classic experiment that discovered this, researchers had people spin a wheel of fortune. Now this wheel was rigged to only land on two numbers, 10 or 65. Right after they spun the wheel, they were asked a completely unrelated question. What percentage of nations in the United Nations are African?
The results were just stunning. The people who landed on the number 10 guessed, on average, that the answer was 25%. But the people who landed on 65, their average guess was 45%. A random, meaningless number powerfully dragged their estimates up or down. And this isn't just a game. This effect is happening all the time in salary negotiations, in real estate, even in courtrooms.
This all brings us to the master principle that really ties so many of these errors together. And it's this: your brain is desperately in love with a good story. So much so that it will build one even when the evidence is paper thin.
This principle is summed up with a great acronym, WYSAIT. It stands for What You See Is All There Is. And this, right here, is the defining feature of System 1. It is a machine for jumping to conclusions. It takes whatever little bits of information are available, weaves them into the most coherent story it can, and then it stays completely blind to all the information it doesn't have.
Let's do a quick thought experiment. Imagine you're considering a candidate for a job. All I'm going to tell you is that Mai Huang is intelligent and strong.
Okay, now based only on those two words, what was your immediate gut reaction? Did a yes just sort of pop into your head?
If you felt that little flicker of confidence in her, yep, that was Wisiati in action. Your brain took two positive words, instantly built a nice, coherent story about a great leader, and just suppressed all the critical questions you should be asking. What's her experience? What's her temperament? Does she have any people skills? Your brain just ignores the missing pieces.
So, let's recap. These are the tools that the stranger in your mirror is using every day. You're run by System 1, your lazy but incredibly powerful inner boss. You are constantly being primed by your environment. Your brain confuses what's easy to think about for what is actually true. Random numbers can anchor and manipulate your judgment. And maybe most importantly, your brain jumps to conclusions based on simple, coherent stories because what you see is all there is.
You know, just recognizing these patterns is the first and most crucial step. Simply having the vocabulary, being able to name these biases, is an incredibly powerful tool. It allows you to catch your System 1 in the act of jumping to a conclusion, so you can pause and deliberately engage your slower, more thoughtful System 2. The real goal here is to learn to ask one simple question: what am I not seeing? The moment you start asking that, you begin the real journey from being a passenger to becoming the pilot of your own mind.